Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, are you
I'm
Mr. Thomas?
Isaiah Moss.
Hello?
Okay, yeah.
All right.
Can you identify yourself on the phone?
Yep, I'm Ronald Warren Thomas.
Yeah. Okay, so I got two people that are waiting. Mr. Thomas, do you have video capacity?
What does that mean? Can I
Where it
see
says
you?
on your phone, join video?
Yeah, I can see you.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were the other person. Okay, so then Isaiah Moss, you're there as well on the video or audio?
Yeah.
And do you have video capacity where you can plug in?
Yeah, I'm on my tablet, and it was working earlier, but it's not saying it's working now.
If it says join audio, or join video, that's how you do it. But Mr. Moss, just look that over for a minute. Maybe you have to disconnect and reconnect. I'm going to start with this other gentleman and I'll be back with you in a little bit.
Okay, I'll check on the video in a sec then.
That's fine.
All right.
Mr. Ron Thomas, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski, and I'm
Yes.
talking to you on your file D20-01258SD when you got charged with operating while intoxicated from that accident on I-96.
Yes.
The case itself goes back to May 12, which
Yes.
is practically 5 months ago.
Yes.
Today's October 5, so in a week, it'll be 5 months ago.
Yep.
We're talking about a criminal misdemeanor. It's up to 93 days in jail, possible, up to $500 fine. Court costs on top of that, and it gets to be very expensive. Up to 93 days, I said that. 6 points on your license if you pled guilty or were convicted. If you're handling this yourself, Mr. Thomas, it's you and me talking, and that's it. No attorney, no trial. If you
Right.
give up your right to have a trial, that means no witnesses come in, no testimonies taken. You don't testify yourself. You give up your right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Now, can
Yes.
you think of any questions about anything so far?
Well, I just want to make sure that you got all of the things that
The Blue
my
Water
counselors
counseling
said-
stuff and the community service you said you were doing with
Yeah.
cutting hair and people
Yeah.
in Ionia? I
Well,
don't have all the details.
Okay. All right.
I
what
don't
I'm
have all the
doing-
details of that. I know that you went to Blue Water Counseling and
Yeah.
you did some of their counseling. I
Uh-huh.
know that you were working with somebody in Ionia for that community service you were talking about.
Yes.
You'll be able to coordinate that with our community service person here at our court, Brenda
Okay.
McWaters.
Okay.
I got a few emails that you sent in. I've never technically seen the assessment from Blue Water Counseling. I've never seen the assessment or the report.
Okay.
If there is one, your probation officer is probably going to want to review that with you.
Okay. Well, because my doctor or the counselor sent that, and I also have like a certificate of
Yeah,
completion.
that said you went to the counseling for Prime for Life.
Yes.
Yeah, that's
And-
all stuff that you're going to be talking with your probation officer about. I'm not disputing that you started doing stuff on your own.
No, that was my assessment. And then we went to like a 16-hour group thing after my assessment. And they said they sent you all of that.
And they may have. I just,
Okay.
it hasn't caught up with me yet, but yeah, I'm sure your probation officer is going to want to go over that all with you.
Okay.
Now, whether you're going to need to do any other counseling or with what you did already for Prime for Life, if that's enough, your probation officer will talk with you about that.
Okay, because I'm already doing that too. I go every 2 weeks or every 1 week to every 2
Yeah,
weeks.
I'm sure it's good, and I'm sure that's probably exactly what you're needing. I just can't say for certain
Okay, that's
because
fine.
I haven't seen all that paperwork, but your probation officer will let you know.
Okay.
The decision that you make to even get to the point of counseling or community service, the decision you make has to be yours.
Right.
So far, we don't have a plea on this. We're just talking about it.
Oh,
So if
because,
you have the right to plead guilty or not guilty, the decision has to be 100% yours. Nobody can
uh,
make you.
can
And
I
if you
ask
go
you a question?
forward, yes,
Um, I had a plea conference with a gentleman. I can't remember his name. And I pleaded guilty to all of this. And I told him everything that I was doing. And he said to just continue what I'm doing and wait to go to court. So
right,
that's what.
right. But what I'm telling you is, and if you'll understand this, Mr. Thomas, the person you had your meeting with was the prosecutor.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't plead in front of the prosecutor. You only plead in front of the judge. So I'm
Oh,
not doubting you could have gotten into a lot of the details of talking about the case with that prosecutor, but your ultimate decision to plead guilty or not guilty is only with the judge,
okay, I'm
which
sorry.
is what's scheduled. Don't be sorry, it's just explaining it.
Okay,
Today's the date for your plea. And what
okay,
I'm trying to say is, if you do plead guilty, you won't have a trial. We won't have any witnesses come in. You give up your right to be presumed innocent, and you won't have a lawyer, because
right,
it's just you and me talking to each other right now
right,
about this incident, May 12, when you had your accident.
right.
Now,
So,
do any other questions pop up?
no, ma'am.
So if we go back in time 5 months ago
Hmm.
to May 12,
Yeah.
when you're driving somewhere from Grand Rapids back to Ionia, and you're on I-96,
Hmm.
as to the charge of operating while intoxicated over the legal limit, a criminal misdemeanor, up to 93 days in jail, up to $500 fine. Court costs are on top of that. It gets to be expensive. Like I said, 6 points from the Secretary of State.
Hmm.
How do you want to plead to the charge called operating while intoxicated from that very incident?
Well, I was, so I'm pleading guilty.
Okay. Is anybody making you plead guilty, Mr. Thomas?
No, I did. I know I did something wrong.
Well, it seems so clear now, 5 months later, that you can be so clear and say you did something wrong. How was it that you couldn't recognize it back when you were with your friends leaving to
I,
head to Ionia?
I wasn't heading to Ionia. I was coming from Ionia to Grand Rapids.
What,
And
where were you going for? What was it for?
a friend of mine's mother had died. And
Uh-huh.
I was going, and I am a life coach, and I was his life coach. So I
Where
left a
were you
dinner party.
drinking the alcohol?
It was wine, and it was at a dinner party.
And when you were at the dinner party, how many people were there?
Probably 10,
Ballpark.
I think 10, a 10.
Did you have the idea at that time? Did you know you were going to be continuing from that dinner party to go do your life coach work with a grieving person?
Good. No, he called me during the dinner party.
Okay, so you didn't know the mother died until he called you.
Yeah.
Okay. And when you left, did anybody at the party, the dinner party, say, Ron, you shouldn't head out, you've been having some wine?
No. What they said is that Ron, just leave him alone. He can do it by himself. And I said, no, he's one of my clients. I said,
Okay, that's fine.
can
But
anybody
nobody
take?
questioned whether you should be driving.
No,
And then May 12th, presumably, the weather was not a problem.
no.
So you're driving to go
Mhm.
help this client,
Yeah,
whether you get paid or not, I'm not sure how that works, but you're going to help this grieving person
yes,
and you lose control on I-96 and wipe out?
yes, because my axle broke on my car.
Uh-huh. And at
My
what
axle,
point, like when you're driving along, you're just driving along on I-96 and your axle breaks?
yes. And I was told
Did you
that,
tell the police that?
yes, ma'am.
So you talked to them about what happened?
Yeah. And I even
Okay.
took him over, to the car and showed him that my two tires were like caved in. Both sides were caved in, you know.
Did you have a
And
breathalyzer right there at the scene?
yes, because he asked me if I had been drinking, and I said, yes, I was about an hour ago. And he says, have you
They're
had
always
anything?
going to ask that. They're pretty much always going to ask that. It's a pretty standard question. What time of day was this?
This is around between 7 and 8 at night.
Okay. When the officer from the Michigan State Police arrived on the scene, he spoke to Ron Thomas.
Yes. that
Ron
me.
was standing outside of his vehicle.
Yeah.
The trooper asked you what happened. Mr. Thomas said he didn't really remember. He said he was driving, then he just lost control. I asked him if he had anything to drink. He said he had 2 glasses of wine at dinner. He said it was about 2 hours prior to that. I asked where he was coming from. He stated he had left a friend's house. He was heading home to Ionia.
What? No,
That's what they're saying you told him.
no, I was going.
I asked Ron if he was feeling the effects of the alcohol. He said no. Here's my point, Mr. Thomas.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure that we don't have a fatal car accident on the road. You're
Yes.
driving and your blood alcohol level was what? What did you find out it was?
I don't know. They didn't tell me.
You never found out what it was?
No.
On the preliminary breath test right at the scene, 0.147. You don't remember anyone telling you any numbers.
No, he didn't.
And then you went to the jail and had another breathalyzer or 2 samples then.
Yep.
And no
And
one
they
ever
said-
told you what the results were.
They just said that the first one at the jail said that I was intoxicated. Then they came back and said, you are still intoxicated and we're not going to let you leave. They never told me any numbers. And that
0.16.
police officer was so nice to me.
Uh-huh.
That state police officer was so nice. He was so nice.
Yeah,
He
it's
was the
nice. I'm glad
nicest
they're
guy.
nice. My question to you is, you're pleading guilty. A minute ago, you told me, I know what I did was wrong.
Right?
So I'm asking you, how do you know?
Because I was drinking and driving.
Okay.
And I got in an accident.
It's not just about drinking and driving, though. If you think about this, your blood alcohol level was over the legal limit, almost double. When you
Yeah,
had
I
your
didn't know that.
breathalyzer at the scene, I'm telling you now, it was a 0.147. When you got down to the jail, it was a 0.16. Anything 0.08 and above automatically is illegal, whether you're driving perfect or whether you're driving like a maniac. 0.16 was your blood alcohol level with both breathalyzers at the data master down at the jail. And what I'm saying is, okay, 2 weeks ago Friday, I had 2 fatals. I wished you could have heard them because they were just horrific, sad. I mean, I'm still talking about them. They happened months ago, just like your case is months ago, but I saw them 2 weeks ago Friday. 2 different families that are devastated by the end result. 2 different totally unrelated cases, not even alcohol involved. One was a stop sign, one was a red light. Both were fatals. And you can't take it back. There's nothing that can be done. The person is gone. And when you think of what those families go through, and here Ron Thomas gets a do-over. You drove your car off the highway. Okay, maybe the axle broke or whatever. Seems like normally you'd get some warning that you're having some mechanical problems. I'm not a mechanic, but you're a 0.16. Seems to me, if you'd be talking all about that, and I don't know if the axle breaks on the highway or when you go into the ditch. Like I said, I'm not a mechanic, but if you thought that there was some mechanical failure, seems like it's the first thing I'd be telling the cop. Mechanical failure. Yeah, well, the report doesn't indicate anything about mechanical failure. In fact, it says he didn't remember what had happened. All I'm trying to say is there's no excuse for you even trying to help that person that lost a loved one. There's no excuse for you to be driving when you think you're okay. You think you're okay. It's not like I believe you were trying to put people's lives at risk, including yours. Although reality, that's what you did.
Yes.
The lady that you they talked to a lady on the highway. Okay, forget that. My point to you is you got to be smarter about these kind of things, because in a split second, it's somebody's death. How do you say sorry to that? You know, your axle can be repaired. It's not that we care about. It's what if you hit somebody?
I know.
And it could have
And I
happened
think-
in a split second. Go ahead.
I was thinking of, that's what I've been thinking about this whole time, because prior to that, I don't drink. I don't drink at all. I don't drink wine. My family doesn't drink. I live with my parents. They don't drink. I don't do drugs. I was at a dinner party to celebrate me being a life coach, and it was the stupidest thing that I could have ever done. And it wasn't about me. It was about I could have hurt somebody else. That's what I
No
was.
doubt.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, and you give me all the explanations of you don't drink, nobody drinks, nobody around you drinks, nobody drinks. I mean, that's exactly what we're talking about here. You did drink. This is
I
the
know.
time. This is the one we're talking about. And that's all it takes is 1 second. And
One
that's why
time.
I'm saying, I give you a 93-day suspended jail sentence. You don't serve any more jail. You get credit for when you were in custody, which amounts to 2 days, even though you weren't there that long. 12 days of community service, and you'll be talking to the person from our court to coordinate what you've been doing with some of that community service in Ionia. I'm not sure how much you'll get credit for, but probably you will. You'll be on probation for 1 year, Mr. Thomas. 1
Okay.
year, even though this case goes back 5 months, where I'm asking you, don't be a defendant again, ever, anywhere. No
Yes, ma'am.
alcohol, no illegal drugs, no misuse of prescription medication, no marijuana, testing randomly. I just want you to be squeaky clean.
Yes, ma'am.
Attend the counseling. I'm sure the Blue Water Counseling, what you did in that program that you were showing me is fine. Just talk with your probation officer about it.
Will you send me paperwork on that? The probation
Yes,
officer?
you'll get paperwork on all of this. They'll contact you via
Okay.
mail, Zoom, email, you know. The monetary fines are $730. There's $360 that's the probation at $30 a month times 12. There's a $75 crime victims' right fee in every one of these cases. And the Michigan State Police can recover $100 towards their arrest processing. The total for you, I told you, it gets to be expensive, $1,265. Your driver's license is going to be affected by the Secretary of State based on what your master driving record looks like now. You had a bond of, I believe, $100 that was posted when you were released.
Yeah.
They'll apply that toward the money that you owe on this case.
Okay.
Now, Mr. Thomas, I'm not trying to say that you're some kind of a criminal or bad person. Don't hear me incorrectly. I'm just saying be smart. Really, what I'm saying is be smarter, because you're already smart. Be smarter about how you handle things. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions?
I do. Hang on.
The probation department from our court will be contacting you to set everything up. You'll get paperwork that describes everything that I've said, and your main contact person will be the probation officer.
Okay.
Although you will be working with our community service person out here via email, telephone, to set up and coordinate your community service. Go ahead.
Will I get payment for, can I do payments for my,
Yes, you can set up a payment plan, and they'll tell you about how to set that up when they're doing everything.
okay,
All right, be courageous enough that you can talk to the friends that were at that dinner party, because you're not
I
the
will.
only one driving at a .14, .16 when you think you're fine. Going to help a friend or not. People drive when they've had too much to drink, and they shouldn't. It can cost people their lives, and I've seen it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for hearing me out.
Thank you.
You can disconnect.
All right.
Mr. Isaiah Moss?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Moss, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski, talking to you on your case that's D20-01039SD. Mr. Abuxia is here from the Public Defender's Office and had had a chance to talk with you during the course of this case. You pled to a high BAC charge, which is the 6-month misdemeanor, and you've had your assessment already conducted at the Centennial Park Counseling. If there's anything that you can think of that you want to say, I'll give you a minute, but I want Mr. Abuxia to speak first, and then you get a chance to talk when it's your turn. Go ahead, Mr. Abuxia.
Thank you, Your Honor. I do want to point out that I believe we're here originally set for a guilty plea, and that Mr. Moss had done his evaluation
Okay,
before
my
a
bad.
sentencing date.
Okay, my bad. I thought it was sentencing. So, Mr. Moss, Mr. Abuxia just reminded me that you haven't pled to this yet, so I'll talk to you about that. When you're talking about pleading to a misdemeanor case, like I had mentioned, this is a high BAC charge. BAC, sometimes they call it, well, bodily alcohol content, but they talk about super drunk. Like if it's 0.17 or above, they call it, sometimes the slang is super drunk law. Well, that's a misdemeanor, up to 6 months in jail, possible. Doesn't mean it will happen. It just means that's the maximum. Up to $700 fine, 6 points on your license if you pled guilty or were convicted. You'd have the right to plead guilty or not guilty. You'd have the right to have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, and you have the right to have Mr. Abuxia represent you. Obviously, if you go forward on this, we don't have a trial. Once a person pleads guilty, we don't have a trial. We only have a trial when they say not guilty. So the rights at trial that you give up are your rights, including bringing in witnesses, cross-examine witnesses, take the stand yourself, be a witness if you wanted to. If you chose not to, your silence cannot be held against you. You have the right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. If you go forward on this case, Mr. Moss, it has to be your decision. Not your mom, not your sister, not your girlfriend, not your dad, not your attorney, not me. Whatever happened with this car accident back on March 24, M6 near Patterson, it has to 100% be your decision. So far, are you clear on that? Do you get it?
Yes, Your Honor.
If there was something that occurred at the district court that you didn't agree with, you're given 21 days, 3 weeks, after being sentenced to appeal a case to the higher court. Any questions about that?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, then I'm going to go back in time. March 24, which is not quite, almost 7 months ago, a little over 6 months ago, with today being the 5th of October. So in 3 weeks, it'll be, 7 months. How do you want to plead to the high BAC charge of driving a vehicle with a 0.17 in your system or higher?
Guilty, Your Honor.
And are you pleading guilty by your own decision?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has anybody at all forced or threatened you in any way to plead to this, Mr. Moss?
No, Your Honor.
Do you remember the incident?
Yes.
Were you driving?
Yes.
And are there parts of it that you remember right up to the accident?
Yeah.
Can you physically remember when you were losing control and the car was flipping?
No.
It's kind of blocked out.
As I had told the officer, I believe I fell asleep, and I don't
Okay.
remember coming
So
around
you
the
think
corner.
driving off the road was caused by you being asleep?
I'm not exactly sure. That's just a feeling that I had waking up,
Okay.
and I can't really
What
remember.
But nobody told you, because you did bang your head and you got a laceration, right?
Yeah, just a minor one.
But no one really said that you were knocked out or unconscious as they came to help you, true?
No, I was already out of the vehicle.
You
At that point.
physically got out on your own? You crawled out when it was
Yes.
upside down?
Yeah, I woke upside down, restrained,
Now let's talk about where you were before that happened. Where were you?
at my home in Holland.
And when you were at your home in Holland, Because I got a Lincoln Park address, and that's not even good, is it?
That's a house that I own
Where do you get your mail?
at the Holland address, or the Zealand address.
Okay, what's the address? Can you give it to me, Mr. Moss?
Yes, 3680 104th Avenue in Zealand, Michigan,
And what's the zip?
49464.
Okay, and you can get mail there.
Yeah.
So when you were at your house in Zealand, were you drinking by yourself or were you drinking with anyone?
I was by myself.
And when you were drinking, what time of day was it?
It was approximately 6:30, right before
PM,
dinner.
dinner time.
Yeah.
And what were you drinking?
It was 151 Everclear.
What is that?
It's like a corn grain alcohol. That's 151
It's like a hard
proof.
liquor of some sort. Do you mix
Yeah.
it with anything or drink it straight?
I did not. I had
So
not
you're
really
just
slept
drinking it
much.
straight, like shots or like out of the bottle?
I had poured it into a glass, and I told the
Okay.
officer it was approximately 2 or 3 shots.
Okay,
It's kind of hard to figure exactly.
okay. Well, you didn't measure it. You just poured
Yeah.
it. Fair enough. And then where were you going?
I was going to work.
So what do you do for work?
I make medical patches and teeth whitening strips
What kind of medical patches?
for Alzheimer's or steroids, birth control, stuff like that.
Do you normally drink to the point where you're over the legal limit when you're on your way to work?
No. That was
I mean,
a
it's not
very,
like your
very rare
employer,
occasion.
it's not like your employer would approve of that,
No,
true?
they definitely would not.
Are you still with the same employer?
I am.
When you had the car accident, you went to the hospital, you went to Butterworth, right?
I'm not sure which one, but I
All
believe,
right.
yeah.
Did you have blood taken from you so they could test how much alcohol was in your system?
They mentioned it, but I don't think they did.
Do
I
you
said they
ever
just-
remember when you took the data master down at the jail, when you blew into that data master a couple of times?
Mhm.
Did they tell you what the test results were?
Yeah, it was a 2.0 and a 2.1.
You heard that it was a .20 and .21.
Yeah.
Did the numbers mean anything to you when you heard them?
Yeah, I was quite shocked.
Did you know it wasn't good?
Yes. I knew that was
Have you-
terrible.
Okay, I appreciate it. Have you ever talked with anybody at your work, any of your supervisors, about what happened that you got arrested?
Not entirely. I wanted to finish this and then explain what had happened entirely.
Huh. So you were off work at least that next day, or that day and the next day being in
Yeah.
jail, right?
It was
Because you
about
went
3
to jail,
weeks.
didn't you?
Just
How
for
long
the
was
night.
it?
I was off work for about 3 weeks.
Because
But
of the
they-
injuries?
Well,
Banged
technically,
up?
kind of yes and no. My
Okay.
employer had about 2 days before given a 3-week off COVID release,
Oh,
so they allowed me to take 3 weeks off for that.
I see.
Yeah, so
So
it
really,
worked
it was
out.
just the timing of it. They didn't really know about the car accident.
They did. I told them about that. I told them
They
that I
knew
had
about the
wrecked.
car
And,
accident.
yep.
Okay.
And then I went to the hospital.
All right, I appreciate it. But when you learn about this now, you realize that a .20 and a .21 are well over the legal limit.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's
And you're
ridiculous.
saying that normally, if I have this correct, normally you don't go to work intoxicated.
Yeah.
Makes me worried about what you'd be making for people that need medical help, and you're a .20 making the stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be funny, I'm just saying it's a huge concern.
definitely.
I mean, I'm glad you're not a doctor going to help people when you're a .20. I mean, we have every occupation that you can think of in front of us for driving and drinking.
Yeah. It's very irresponsible.
This was a rollover where you could have in a split second been killed. Who do you think the first people we'd call if you died? Your mom and dad?
Yeah.
Can you imagine what it would be like for them? Do you have a relationship with your parents?
Oh yeah. It's very good.
So it'd be devastating to them, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, try
Kinda
to
tearing up.
imagine it.
It's like I do.
Sometimes they don't even call them on the phone. They go right to the house because they don't want to give them such horrific news over a telephone call.
Yeah.
So they'll physically go to where your parents are and tell them. And in a split second, that's what could have happened here. I don't know if you're clear on that.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Definitely.
so lucky. I don't know. You
Yeah,
get
I
a
can't believe it.
do-over in every sense. Yeah. All
And
right.
I had
Well,
a friend
Mr.
that
Abuxia, go ahead.
I had a friend that had an accident about 2 or 3 days after mine, and his was less severe even, and he had lost his leg.
He
It's,
lost his leg in that.
yeah, a definite eye opener.
So, right. So
Like,
then you get a real indication of how
Yeah.
fast it happens. And your
Seems
accident
unfair
was a
almost.
rollover, which was
Really.
more intense, but he
Yeah.
lost his leg. Yeah. All right, Mr. Abuxia, I'll ask you whether you believe the court has complied with the court rule in terms of the taking of the plea.
I do, Your Honor.
Okay, so is there anything you can think of, Mr. Abuxia, that you want to say?
I'd just like to add, not really adding, I think Mr. Moss said it himself. He is taking this very seriously. It's been a time of reflection for him. Yes, it was sheer coincidence that COVID was starting up right around the time that he got into this accident and needed a little bit of time off. He does have a great job working for a good company. And so I don't believe jail time is necessary in this case. I would say that class such as Crossroads might benefit Mr. Moss, although I believe that he really has taken the time since this occurred up till today to think about what could have happened and what did happen and how lucky he was that it wasn't more severe.
Okay,
With that being said, I leave sentencing in your discretion, Your Honor.
okay, I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Abuxia. Mr. Moss, can you think of anything else that you want to say? Anything more?
The first thing that I really thought of when I was crawling out of the vehicle was really thank God nobody else had gotten injured. That would have
Right.
been worst case scenario.
Yeah.
But other than that,
And I've
that's,
had people
I
that
do.
I've had people in court that stand right in front of me and say, I'm sorry that I wasn't the one killed. I mean, they would have wished to have been killed more than the other guy they did kill. And I mean, of course, we don't do it that way and we can't pick and choose.
Yeah.
Really, what we want to say is we don't want anyone killed. But with what you're saying, the worst case scenario is you kill somebody else. I get that you have to live with that, but the other family is so devastated that it's horrific beyond belief.
Yeah.
And that's what's so amazing about your car, because your car accident, because your car flipped over, you know, and it was a disaster from the get-go, but it's a miracle. It's just a miracle that you didn't sustain more significant injuries and or death. I mean, yeah, you get a do-over and
And even if
you
I
are
had,
so
I would have
lucky.
accepted, that's the consequences. And I
Yeah,
would have taken it,
yeah.
as long as
Well, we just
nobody else had gotten
want you
injured,
to
I'm
get
glad.
yourself on track and never have this repeat itself. Be
Sure.
courageous enough to talk to others about it so that you can help others learn from your example here. I don't
And
give
at,
you any more jail to do, but out of that 6-month sentence, you only get credit for 2 days that you were in. 5 months, 28 days are held over your head. You won't do any more jail time unless you mess up. There will be
Okay.
12 days of community service for you to do on 1 year of probation. We're asking you not to drink alcohol at all, not use any illegal drugs, not misuse any prescription medications, no marijuana, and testing as randomly required to see if you're staying clean. They'll
All right.
tell you what kind of counseling you should be in, and Mr. Abuxia mentioned some of the programs that they'll use, just kind of entry level that we want you to get involved in. It's $1,000 fine, which is costly. Probation is for 1 year at $30 a month times 12 months is $360. There's a $75 crime victims' right fee on every one of these cases. $100 goes back to the Michigan State Police. And there's added $200 for your court-appointed attorney for a total of $1,735. It's a lot. $1,735. Now you get to apply your bond, which I want to say was $100. You'll remember better than I.
Yeah, it was 100.
Secretary of State will be taking your license away. You can set up a payment plan. Your main person is going to be your probation officer. They'll contact you at the address you gave me in Zealand. They'll contact you so they can get a hold of you and talk to you about what's going on with this whole thing, how to set up everything I've just said. Amanda, do you have the Zealand address? Okay. Can you think of any other questions that you have, Mr. Moss?
No, that was it.
I say to people all the time, I mean, I don't know you. I don't know most of the people that are in front of me. And I'm sure you're smart. I'm asking you to be smarter. I'm asking you to act smarter. Because really, this never should have happened. Seriously, it never should have happened. And you got to really learn from it because you're not going to get another do-over again.
Definitely not.
Perhaps you don't get another do-over. Use this wisely is what I'm saying. Okay. You can disconnect and our court will be in contact with you. Check your mail.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Mr. Moss.
Have a great day.
Okay, thank you. Jessica, do you say your last name Rouser?
Yes, I do.
Ms. Rouser, I'm Judge Sara Smolenski, and I have you in front of me with your attorney, Mr. Abuxia,
Okay.
on this case that, on the Zoom, on this case that had to do with failing to stop and identify at a property damage accident near 68th and Patterson, Gaines Township. The actual ticket, failing to stop and identify at a property damage accident, sometimes people call it a hit and run. It's a criminal misdemeanor charge. It's up to 93 days in jail. It's up to $500 fine. Court costs on top of that. You can plead guilty or not guilty. You can have a trial in front of a judge or a jury, and you can have an attorney, and Mr. Abuxia is here and certainly more than capable of representing you. If you go forward, Ms. Rouser, it has to be your decision as to how to go forward, guilty or not guilty.
Guilty.
And if you plead guilty, I appreciate that. And if you plead guilty, you don't have a trial at all. Then
Yep.
you take, then we take the rights that you have about having a trial off the table. So there's no witnesses come in. There's no testimony from anybody. You give up your right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Once a person pleads guilty, we just never have a trial. Do you get that?
Yep.
If there is something that you think was unfair at the district court level, you can appeal to the circuit court. That's the next higher court.
Okay.
And you're given 21 days, 3 weeks, 21 days to appeal a case to the higher court. Any
Okay.
questions about that?
Nope.
Mr. Abuxia talked with the prosecuting attorney and they recommended no jail. If you pled to the failing to stop at the scene of a property damage accident, the prosecutor's office was recommending no jail. But again, the decision has to be yours. Are you with me?
Yep.
Then I want to ask you, going back to the date of this incident, February 14, Valentine's Day, 68th Street, Patterson Avenue, failing to stop and identify after the property damage accident, how do you want to plead?
Guilty.
Can you briefly tell me what you remember?
Yeah. I was going down after I dropped my boyfriend off at 52nd and Eastern, and I worked at that time on Broadmoor and like 100th area, right in between 100th and 84th. And dropped my boyfriend off. It was snowing really bad. I was coming through and a guy cut in front of me, so I swerved to miss him. And in the process of swerving him, I did about 6 loops, like complete circles, and ended in the middle median. And I hit a guy who was turning left into his, I'm assuming it was his work. He was turning left and I hit him at his tailgate, I want to say it was. And
Was it like a truck?
Yeah. I like.
So it was the back end of his truck, like the tailgate?
Yeah.
Okay.
And at that point, he turned in, and I thought I saw him completely park, not like park to come out. I saw him like go all the way to the other end of the parking lot and park in a parking spot. So at that point, I just left, thinking, okay, well, he's not gonna report anything. I don't really nothing's wrong with my car, so I'm just gonna go to work. And I just went to work, and then 2 days later, I had a cop show up at my house, and I explained the same situation.
Let me ask you, when you dropped your boyfriend off at 52nd and Eastern, is that at his place of work or is that just the corner?
That's at his place of work. I live on 68th in between both of our areas. I live right on
Okay,
68th.
so you took him first and then you went back to go to your job.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, when you saw that truck stop in the parking lot, you never followed him in or tried to talk to him. You never discussed anything with the person, man or woman driving, true?
No. True.
You
Yeah.
just made the decision
Yep.
that kind of no harm, no foul, I'll just go about my business.
Yeah.
When you look back on it, do you realize it wasn't your best move?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Because if you went back and talked to him, and you guys both get out of your cars in the parking lot, check it out, check it out, check it out. He decides, no, no problem, no problem. That's totally different, if you ask me,
Yeah.
than you never going to talk to him.
Yeah.
And clearly they got your license plate.
Yeah. Yeah. Someone must have
And
followed
that's
me.
how they found you, to see you 2 days later. That's how the police tracked you down.
Yeah. Yeah. I should have stopped, and I completely regret that. Over all this
Yeah.
time since February to think about it, that is the one thing that I wish I would have redid. I wish I would have just stopped instead of just like going.
Okay. But the guy that pulled out in front of you, his car never made contact with your car or any others.
No, because I swerved to miss him. I mean, if I didn't swerve to
Right.
miss him,
Right. And you physically weren't hurt in any way.
no.
Do you know if you ever took out any traffic signs?
No, I didn't.
And when you never got out of your car, how do you
Yeah.
know for certain that your car didn't get bumped? Because you know there was a physical contact.
Right. It was just I don't have any scratches on my car from that. The scratches that I have are from my boyfriend's previous owner of the car.
Okay. But I mean,
I
it probably would have been smart if it was safe to do so, to get out and examine both cars. Do you get what I mean?
100%, yes.
Okay. Mr. Abuxia, I'll ask you whether you believe the court has complied with the court rule in terms of the taking of this plea.
Yes, Your Honor.
It seems like one of the biggest penalties with this, if you ask me, is the 6 points on your driver's license that you get from the Secretary of State. This is a 6-point violation. Now, I don't have it committed to memory, Ms. Rouser, how the Secretary of State handles all of this, but you could look into a program that they have where you're allowed to take a driver's license or a driver's improvement type class online,
Okay.
and it gets rid of some of your points. I don't know if it gets rid of all 6, but you could look into it and contact the SOS.
Okay.
Because for the last, I'll just say year, maybe 2, they started doing this program where people could take this online. It was way before COVID. They could take this online class, and if they complete it successfully, they take points off your license, which is exactly what people want,
Yeah.
is less points. I don't know, and I don't think they take all 6 points away, but they would reduce it if you take the class. Check into it and see, and I don't even know. I've talked to people that took it, but I haven't talked to anybody lately. I don't know
Okay.
exactly how long it takes. It's not like weeks and weeks on the video on your computer. I think you can get it done in a few hours, quite frankly, but check to see if it's something that might be beneficial in your situation.
Okay.
Otherwise, you wait 2 years and then your 6 points is off.
Okay.
But you don't want to add any more to them because this is problematic.
Oh yeah.
And the minute you hear the word hit and run, it sounds like not good. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, definitely.
Okay, hold on 1 second for me, Ms. Rouser. Mr. Blanchard, can you hear me okay?
I can, Your Honor.
I think you're in the wrong court.
I
Oh, my
got it.
bad. No, you're in the right place. What's your client's last name?
Butler?
Yep, Matthew Butler. Okay, well, have you talked to the prosecutor recently?
I have not in the last several weeks.
Yeah, let me see if I can get him connected and then we'll see where you're at. Hold on, okay?
Great, thank you.
So Ms. Rouser, to follow up, yours is a 93-day, or did you want to say anything else, Mr. Abuxia?
Your Honor, just that she has had this time to think about what's happened. I do ask the court to follow the recommendation of no jail time. I don't think it's warranted in this case.
Right.
Bad weather situation, chain reaction accident. Sure, she should have stopped to make sure everybody was all right. She's accepting responsibility, and so I'll just leave the rest in the court's discretion.
Okay, Ms. Rouser, I don't give you any jail. I'm going to have it be a 6 months non-reporting probation, so it's not like you're going to have to be reporting, but all they'll do is run your record to make sure you don't have any new offenses in the next 6 months, starting October to April 2021. So just stay clean, squeaky clean. That's what I'm going for.
Okay. I do have a question on that. The only thing I have a question, I have a medical card for my anxiety and my chronic pain in my back. Is that going to become an issue?
Well, do you use it regularly?
Yeah, I do for my anxiety.
Okay.
That's all.
It's going to be non-reporting probation. So I'll just say you keep following what your medical personnel is saying. I'm not going to tell you you can't use it. I'm not going to tell you anything about alcohol. This wasn't alcohol or drug related. I just want to make sure that you're smart and don't have any new cases, period.
No problem.
All right. It's a $200 fine. Probation is 6 months at $30 a month is $180. Mandatory, there's a $75 crime victims' right fee, and your court-appointed attorney fee is $200. So the total is $655.
Okay.
Now, honestly, I don't know if insurance got involved with reference to any damage to that other guy's car.
Okay.
But insurance would have to be dealt with.
Okay.
So if there's any restitution, all we try to do is put people back in the position had it never happened.
Okay.
Like try to put everything in reverse and it doesn't happen. Fix the car if it got damaged. If insurance already take care of that, then it's no problem. But if it doesn't, there could be more out-of-pocket expense for you. Do you understand?
Yep, I got you.
All right, that's all we're going to check in on. Otherwise, you should be all set, okay?
Thank you.
Set up a payment plan so you know how to take care of this and get it started with the clerk, okay?
I will.
No
And I'll
contact.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Okay, thank you, Miss Rouser. Miss Rouser, thanks for your courtesy.
Thank you.
Okay, yep. All right, Mr. Blanchard and Mr. Butler, I'm trying to see if Felix Tarango is going to zoom in so you guys can have a meeting. Let me just see if that would be redirected to his number. Do you know if he's going to zoom in on these?
I sent him an email, but my understanding was these were going to the prosecutor, but.
Okay, Mr. Butler and Mr. Blanchard, do you have Felix Tarango's Zoom in meeting ID numbers?
I may have it somewhere.
Well, let me give it to you. Do you have a pen?
Yep.
Mr. Butler, you're going to have to take this down too.
Yep, I'm taking it.
245-899-6670. I'm not going to say the password because we're live streaming on YouTube right now, but it's the same password you both used to get into my room.
Very well.
So just use that same one. If there's any problem, zoom back in with me and I'll look into it. But otherwise, I'd like you, Mr. Blanchard, to talk to the prosecutor, get a feel for what you're dealing with the OWI case that goes back to February 6th with Mr. Butler, Lincoln Lake and 10 Mile. I don't know any of the details, but you guys can look into it. Let me know what's going on.
And if you want us to come back after we've met?
Well, if you need me, I don't want to make a premature guess, but if he's going to plead, yes, I'd come back in and let's do it. Okay?
Sure, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot. Mr. Burns, is that you with Andrea's phone?
It is, Your Honor.
What case do you have?
I have Luke Harrison.
Okay, Mr. Harrison's part of the connection with us right now. And that's a
Yes.
case where Mr. Harrison was charged with a high BAC. Mr. Harrison, can you hear us okay?
Yes.
That high BAC, sometimes you'll hear people refer to it as the super drunk law. It's a 6-month misdemeanor, not a 93-day misdemeanor. I don't know when's the last time, Mr. Burns, you had a chance to talk to the prosecutor, Felix Tarango, on this. But that's what you really, go ahead.
I think we're very close. I do just want to confirm a couple of things with him. I thought I would jump over there too, and I do have his number if you'd like me to do that.
Okay.
But we may very well plead this today.
Well, I'll be here, so
That's what I
just
fully
buzz,
expect.
I'll be here, so just buzz in back with us and we'll be ready.
Okay, great. Thank you. Will do.
Okay,
you.
thank you. He's the client for the one we just talked